Hey everyone, welcome to the, I guess, first Guile treatment of 2019. I guess the 18 in review was sort of first, but
yeah,
that was in review.
That was a review of
new stuff.
That was the review of last year, so it doesn't count. So
we have Barrett Bryant joining us again. I believe Chris has some info regarding that.
So after me and Barrett filmed a few episodes, I offered for him to come on permanently because we like having him on. He is really the only cardboard holder between the three of us, so it's really good to have a certifiable winner on the squad. Yeah. Rob wins
for
stuff.
2020, we'll replace us with Tim Keefe, and it can just be Barrett and Tim Keefe.
Now that would be some good talk right there. That would be great.
I've never talked with him outside of like majors, so like I don't know.
Tim's cool, man. Tim's a cool dude. I like Tim a lot. Yeah, so he graciously accepted. He likes the show, so he likes the show enough to be on it and watch it, and now he's permanently on it, and he has no choice until he dies. So
oh my goodness,
it's for life, man. It's like you sign it in blood. So
I'm already totally on board because like I can do this in the comfort of my home compared to like getting up and going somewhere else to record. So I'm like, this is great.
Yeah. No, the hardest part about the show is getting Rob on. That's the hardest part. That's the hardest part. It's getting Rob. Rob, are you up? Rob, are you up? 10 minutes later, I feel sick. Okay, fine, we'll do it without you. So.
Well, like, side note for today, like you said, all right, 11 to noon. I'm like, okay, cool. Set my alarm for 11. Immediately at 11. All right, man, I'm calling right now. I'm like, oh, no.
Yeah, 11 means like 10:50, really, if you think about it.
Okay.
But
I was on time today, for the record. Yeah. Okay.
He was. So, so for the first topic of 2019, there's been a kind of the scuttlebutt around the water cooler is, for those who don't know what scuttlebutt is, it is rumor. So, whatever. It's the old man in me talking.
They called it in the 50s.
I guess so. Jason had kind of reached out to the community talking about maybe changing the mulligan rule for standard. Because currently, right now, going second sucks in UFS. First turn player has such a major advantage over the second turn player is that they're thinking of changing the mulligan rule from remove your entire hand, draw back up, to the turbo mulligan rule, which is a partial Paris where you choose the cards you want to keep, you put the cards back into your deck, you draw, then you shuffle. That's what the turbo mulligan rule is.
All right, so I don't play a lot of turbo.
That's fine.
You can't draw the cards you put back, which is really important.
Correct. Right? Yes. Correct. So, and then you just play that. I've also heard, I guess on the Discord, there's been a lot of people trying to figure this out, how to make it fairer for the second player to go. But we can kind of get into that as we go into the episode about like having face downs to start the game, and that's just. For those, I don't know if you guys ever played during the Chin era, that is the worst idea ever, because Chin was a 6 hand size who started with 2 in play, and yeah, it was rough. Like, he was banned for a reason, and that was kind of the reason where he started turn 1, really going on turn 3, possibly.
I mean, you can even just look at Athena, last year's Nationals. Like, obviously the character, at the end of its standard rotation life, it was still good enough to win with Dan Hughes. So, like, and having that extra face down as a 7-hander was already better. So, like, any 7-hander now with that kind of, like, beginning of the game rule would be off the charts.
Oh,
so,
yeah,
like,
for sure. Like, if you...
Granted, they still die in, like, 2 touches.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, granted, but then they're able to block better because they have more face downs.
Yeah, they're already building faster than you because they can choose to build 5 on turn 1 and then still have 2 cards to block with if you choose to be early aggressive. And then like some 6-handers, like I don't get to do that.
Okay, so let's kind of get into the pros of going first, and then we'll kind of go into the cons of going second, and maybe the pros of are there any pros of going? Are there any cons of going first? Possibly, is there? Are there any?
I don't think there's any character like
just in general.
No.
It's like what the con's supposed to be that your character's committed, and you don't get to review. Like those are the actual like in the written rules. The 2 cons, but then you like even now you look at characters like Lilith like that are coming out, and you're like, oh well, this character's playable while committed. So normally the perk of going second is that if you play an incredibly aggressive deck, and like JJ does a lot of that here, you're allowed to turn 1 swing at somebody and get your character's abilities. Well, like a character like Lilith now can do that anyway, and you also can play like a bunch of these cards that don't count towards progressive, and then you still get to hit somebody, and you still get to build, and then this, oh, well, the downside is that your character's committed. Well, every character they print that says playable while committed is going to be nuts going first, always. And so, like, the downside versus other people, it means you can't commit one more card to pass a check to build.
Yeah.
But it's weird anyway, because, like, if you go second and you use your character to commit to pass to build more cards, well, then you just look incredibly open to your opponent who has already built one turn.
Yeah. True.
So like that's why I kind of feel the commit your character and no review isn't really a con. So I kind of agree that there just really isn't one.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, the other thing too is we had I guess it was Worlds, not this year but the year before, where we had like the Bomb Man deck, like a couple Zoe decks, Tomahawk Man, there were a couple of him, and even like all the like characters that were running around with like multiple Strumwafts, like there were a ton of characters that could like mess you up.
Wasn't
like
finals
on their first turn going second?
Wasn't one of the final games decided on turn 1 where Tim just attacked and just checked?
Yeah, I think Tim played like 3 attacks. Well, I think he was also like Turbo Man, so like
he was Pharaoh Man.
Oh, you're right.
Iari was Turbo Man.
He beat Iari then, right?
Yeah, he beat Iari.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think he actually
like,
went 3 Sturmwafts in a row, and that's how he just basically put him into this part where he was just on the defensive the entire time and just basically beat him on turn 1.
Yep.
Because Pharaoh Man's minus to your checks doesn't ever go away because he's committed, because it's a static. But
yeah, so
you give it like you can give it damage and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and like I guess even with that example, and like that's actually more recent enough to where even I know what you're talking about. Like the example of that means for one of two things. It means that they can't ever print incredibly aggressive and low difficulty attacks, like basically ever, because then that becomes a problem.
Yeah.
Of like, yes, going second means your character's ready, and then you can do that kind of stuff. And then maybe there's that means going second is sometimes good versus going first, but it's so few decks and only decks that are running those specific cards. And then what's still stopping you from doing that in a going first deck and your character's committed?
Yeah.
As long as those attacks are strong enough. And like that's what the idea of like Stormoff was. Like that card was so good no matter where you played it essentially or how early on you played it either. It was just good. So like
it was banned pretty much because of that. Yes, that's exactly the reason why it was banned.
I mean, I think characters now, like, the best characters, I would say, if I was like, I'm going to attack this person on turn, my first turn, are, maybe like a Spike 2, or...
Well, Lilith.
Like, I mean, still Tomahawk. Yeah, Lilith can. Yeah. She has, like,
Cassie.
Oh!
I mean, you could have to pass... I guess she does get the one build. If could do it.
The only reason why Cassie works is because she gets to ready one of the foundations you committed, and you're still building. That's the only reason she works attacking turn 2.
And I mean, Metal Man, like he's sort of always had like some of those builds that are a bunch of like
slams,
like slams, or I guess you could do it with like tech with whatever it's called, the Dagger Strike. Something like he can run a bunch of attacks that kind of like. You either pass on 5s, or you kind of like make them cheaper through like other means, so that
the slam build too. It's the same way.
It's sort of like Chun-Li, where he gets the build. I mean, if he has to hit, I guess.
Yeah.
But she has to commit foundation, so she's not a great.
She's not going to want to do it on turn 1 or turn 2 because of that, because of committing foundation.
I know that it kind of, in a way, like the mature 59 deck was one of those decks where it actually kind of. Backtracking a bit, but that would want to go. It could go first or second and not care.
So here's the thing about that,
right?
Even with that deck, I think you choose to go first because your opponent
wants to.
Because they want to go first.
Oh, that's true.
So you're basically just like, I go first, I go second. It doesn't really matter if I go first. Maybe I get like a hit in, and I'll get a little bit of momentum, which will make me even more dangerous. But I get like. you still wanted to go first because you didn't want your opponent to go first.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like the biggest problem about it is that we can sit here and like we're sitting here trying to defend going second. Basically, is like you have these decks that sometimes really want to go second, like would make a choice to go second so they can hit their opponent with their character ready and they can use their character abilities. But at the same time, exactly what you're talking about, Rob. Those kind of decks going first mean you stop your opponent from going first, and you still get a free extra turn of trying to just reduce their total life total. And I think that's kind of comparing this like to other card games. I would say like Hearthstone. That this is the quickest comparison. There's this rule in Hearthstone where like going first is so strong in that game that you essentially, if you go second, should count yourself with minus half of your vitality.
Oh wow!
And it feels the same in this game. Honestly, it's. Let's play Vicious for a second. If you're Vicious with 31 vitality going second, you have to consider yourself not a 31 lifer. Probably only about 20 something because your opponent went first and they're going to try and hit you to capitalize on going first. Whether that means they poke you for a little bit and you get a free momentum or whatever.
Okay.
You just don't have that starting life total when you finally start playing the game. And I think that's kind of the biggest differences. And that's why, like, 7-handers going second is really, like, volatile. Because if you're a 7-hander, yes, you kind of get to catch up because you get to build a little bit more your first build turn. But, like, if you're playing against another 7-hander who goes first, they're going to be able to smack you below desperation, essentially.
True. And that brings me back to going first, so we get to build first. It doesn't matter if our character's committed, so whatever. There's no con to going first. We get to have our offensive turn first, so we're already starting it as going first is the aggressive, I would say, mentality advantage. I guess advantage.
So
I don't know what I'm trying to say, but you know what I'm saying. Or you're going first, you get to attack first. You get to do everything first in the game, where our game really hinges on who draws attacks first. You get to draw more cards. Almost twice as many cards before your opponent even gets a second turn, in a way. And that doesn't even count if you've mulliganed or not. So, if you're mulliganing for a certain condition, you could see almost 3 times as many cards before they see twice.
I mean, the thing about that, though, is I don't think it's even just attacking. So, like, some of the, like, really strong deadlock has sort of, like, compressed how much people want to build anyway. I think people are much more likely to start attacking early just because they're like, I don't want to go to, like, 11 or 12 foundations because, if this person has really strong deadlock effects, like, it makes more sense for me to just play my attacks.
True.
But, I mean, like, playing against someone that's content to be more defensive, especially, like, before we had, like, Bebop, I mean, like, I've definitely played against, like, Garrett, and, if he goes first and builds, like, 3 or 4, and then, you build your, like, 3 or 4 or whatever, and then he builds, like, 5, and all of a sudden you're just like, well, I could attack, but he can definitely, like, pass all the blocks, and I could build, but then I'm going to have, like, 2 cards in hand, and if he has a bunch of attacks, like, I'm probably, like, you're just always ahead. Like, whether you want to build, whether you want to attack, I mean, the thing is right, like, second turn is, like, probably the best time to attack because your opponent's only going to have, like, 3 or 4 foundations, and they may not be that good. It's just kind of like whatever they had. And, unless, it's like if they're a 7-hander, maybe they'll have, like, 3 blocks in hand, but if they're, like, a 5 or a 6, they're going to have, like, 1 or 2
cards.
And so you're basically almost guaranteed to be able to land something, especially if you can pass, like, 3 attacks.
Sure.
And it just sort of, like, it's they just don't have that many resources to sort of defend with. I mean, especially stun. If you have stun on turn 2, like, it's going to hit. Like, a turn 2 missile launcher is just bonkers.
That's still, I would say it's still the best turn 2 attack in the game.
I mean, it's up there.
And that or Copy Samba.
Yeah, that or Copy Samba. Yeah, it's one of those
the
two.
same job.
Yeah.
And, like, that's part of the oppressiveness of those 5 discs, right?
Yeah.
I think exactly what you're talking about, Rob. I think the going first in, like, what you were saying, Chris, of, like, seeing twice as many cards and even if you mulligan kind of thing, it not even, like, what Rob's talking about doesn't mean you have to be inherently aggressive, but it also means further and further on, the more combo decks that we see, like actual, like I need to find the specific combination of cards to go in on my opponent, makes it incredibly easier. If you see twice as many cards, and especially if the mulligan rule does end up changing to correct this, going first, or you're saying specifically for turbo rules, only the player going second gets
correct.
This, right?
Yeah, turbo mulligan for first player is they put their hand to the bottom and then draw, then shuffle. So the first player gets rid of their entire hand. Second player gets to choose, because going second in turbo sucks because you have such small.
It's best of one.
It was best of one, and now
do they make it best of three now?
It's best of three now. So. Same rules.
You can tell how much turbo.
Yeah, it's best. The rules now are best of three. Same rules. No sideboarding. It's just. They changed the format. That's it.
Yeah, I guess that makes it a little bit better because
it's a little more palatable.
It fixes the seeing as many cards problem, but it doesn't fix what we're talking about. Correct. I think, because like it basically means that every character gets to be like Jackie Briggs going second, and then like what now Jackie Briggs going second's even more nuts.
Yeah, exactly.
So, like,
and that's another reason. Oh, sorry to cut you off. That's another reason why I don't think the face down ideas that people are thinking about in the Discord channel will work, because, okay, I'm Jackie, I'm going second. I get to start with, let's say, one foundation in play. Even if it's committed on my turn one or whatever. Who cares? Whatever. I doubt it will ever be committed because it wouldn't make any sense for it to be committed. But then I get to sculpt my hand on my opponent's first turn, already having one in hand. I'm already starting at a massive... Like, she already gets to see 8 cards on her going... If she goes second at the beginning of the game. So I wouldn't... Then there are other characters that would say... Well, let's just say Liu Kang never got banned. He gets to start with one foundation in play.
I mean, here's the thing, though. Is... I mean, honestly, like, because one of the other proposals has been you actually... basically, both of you draw your hands, you do your mulligans. And before the player going first... plays any cards, the player going second chooses a foundation from their hand and puts it into play.
Whoa.
And then
that's pretty crazy too.
And then you like play out the game like as normal. And people have been like, well, that's crazy. Well, what if like, they're running like Lonely, or what if you're, like you put out this or that, or like, like you said, like someone like Liu Kang, someone who can like throw out all these attacks, like even on just like 1 or 2 foundations. And the biggest thing is, if you have a character and going second, getting 1 foundation makes them like intolerable, then, it's like going first, they're going to just have like 3 or 4 foundations.
Yeah, true.
And going into the same... So like basically what you're saying is that character's probably a problem.
Yeah, well, like, one of them's already... Liu Kang is already gone.
Going second... Basically, if being ready with 1 foundation, your character has like an absolutely like intolerable win rate, then the character's too good. Yeah. Like that, I think Tim sort of put it like you basically balance that character by saying it's okay. Sometimes they have to go second.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's true. And like you look at characters like that do actually do that. So like you look at Elena, and like if you can compare this same exact situation with Elena, was like, well, Elena's fine because Elena's only got 5 cards in her hand. And well, like not everybody in the game's a 5-hander, and so you have this solution. And then but then you look like, well, then that means Elena gets 2 to start going second, and you're like, okay, she's still a 5-hander.
She's still a 5-hander, yeah. Okay, so just a quick segue. Is it more air ground smash is the problem, or is Jackie the problem with how she sees so many cards in a turn?
No, honestly, I think... Like,
or is she just fine if say we move the rules over to that?
Just makes people Jackie Briggs for the first turn.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's the thing is, like, one of the nice things about Jackie is she's pretty good going second because she gets that ability. They start, she draws 3 extra cards, she picks the 5 out of the 8 that she wants to keep, and then she does her first turn. And then she gets a review, too. So, like, you effectively get a turbo mulligan. As long as 1 card in your hand you want to keep, you get to do a turbo mulligan.
That's true.
And you get to discard them instead of shuffle them back in. But,
yeah. I get you. No, I understand that.
And, like, when I played against J-Ray and Tops for Nationals, that's exactly what he would do. It was like, and he would even say it out loud. He'd be like, I'm trying to figure out which of these foundations are what I need to do for my opening hand. And when he went second in the 2 games that we played, that he went second, it was just like, I'm going to sit here and sculpt my most optimal build turn for my opponent matchup. And I think, honestly, like, the reason why it's still fair in her is just because she is still a 5-hander. Yeah. Air ground smash changes that. And I think that's one of the really controversial things, too, is like, well, if she gets to see so many cards, that's why you should always anticipate she has an air ground smash, because she got to sculpt for it. Yeah. And she's never going to pitch that card. And so, like, and you're right, and we can sit here and do, like, a bunch of characters in ideal situations. Yeah, but this is what it's not about. You were talking about, like characters with the face down, starting with those. I'm like, honestly, like, me thinking of Spike 1 going second with those, I was like, man, not only do I get to start ahead of my opponent on the face down foundation count, which means we can play more aggressive Spike 1 decks because we have more damage for our swimming birds now. It's just like, I don't know about that.
Yeah. Or, I mean, like, honestly, that's kind of why I like just picking a foundation that's already in your hand, because, like, if you're doing face downs, like, then it's just like a whole extra sort of thing that you have to balance of just sort of being like, well, what about things that count face downs? What about things that blow up face downs, replace face downs?
Well, the whole issue of it is trying to help second players survive to get them past turn 2. Well, so if they're playing their best defensive foundation as that card they put down, it's not really going to, I don't know, if it's a defensive, most likely they're going to put down a defensive piece if they're going second. They're not, I don't know, maybe depending on the deck if they're going to go offensively or not, but I think that
they put down that, like, what is it, like, Buddha, like,
Buddhist Devotion? Oh, that'd be sick! Yeah!
Oh, Build 2? Right. Buddhist Devotion. That's pretty good. But that's the first form on it, right?
Yeah. But no, I would, I don't know. I guess it just depends on the mentality or the player, but I think that most people would put down a defensive piece because they don't want to die on turn 2, if you have it.
As much as I think people would find ways to abuse that rule, of course, like I totally know what you're like aggressively they would find a way to abuse it. The super defensive decks would find a way to abuse it.
Yes. I mean, I'm not like advocating that they just adopt it, but I think it would be like cool to test.
Like, do I have to symbol change to that card? Because if I don't, then I'm just putting superior genetics in every single deck.
No, it would have to share with your character.
Okay, fair enough.
Oh, it'd be like the normally can play rule like that. Yeah, I get you.
All right, but at the same time, it's like, not only finding ways to abuse that kind of mechanic, but it actually still, if you're going first, means that you can play decks like with that find a way to play Hunt for Spiders and Dragons on turn 1, because they play that card and you're like, man, that card looks really strong. If I can find a way going first to counteract that mechanic, like, I don't know, slamming a 3-diff foundation, follow it up with a 3-diff or a 2-diff attack, and then get rid of their foundation, then, like, you got rid of one of their pieces. But, like, I think at the same time, like, the perk of going second versus a deck going first and they're swinging on you turn 1 is that you get to turn your bad cards in your hand into better cards by blocking with them. Yeah, and then you just get punished if you're just not playing non-blocks. And so, but a deck that goes in on you turn 1 and you haven't even taken your first turn yet, you get to refilter the bad cards out of your hand, which is, I guess, also a perk. But, like, I mean, the times that that's actually happening in any scenarios is very few and far between.
Well, so. Didn't how JJ got his nickname, the Big Johnson experience, from him going on turn 1, playing like not over yet, build, and attack on turn 1 at Nationals 2 years ago. For the most part, like, that's what people knew him for, was for doing that. So
yeah, that's what he would do when he was playing his Metalman deck, as well as Ferroman.
Yeah, and Ferroman,
because he built both decks playing 4 not over yet on him, essentially. Yeah. And if you're Ferroman going second, you do the not over yet into your build, play your attack, comes in with 2/2, and your opponent has -1 check to block it. Like, you're hitting them with a free card.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah.
And then in Metalman, any way that you can help yourself. Because Metalman would love to attack you turn 1 every single game if he could. Sometimes you don't, but sometimes you do. And so with Not Over Yet, he would do the same thing, because every attack I hit you with my character ready, going second,
it's building. Yeah,
it's building foundations, and I get to pick them up and abuse them with other effects. And so, like, that's the example of a character I was like, I want to go first and I want to go second, just depending on what my hand looks like, which I think would be a lot better way to play the game, I guess, right? But at the same time, you're supposed to make that decision before you even look at your cards. Yeah. And so it's a whole nother rabbit hole, right? So, like,
true. Yeah.
Do we change the order of those events? And then it's like, you can actually build a deck going second. You get to look at your opening hand. You're like, oh, this is the going second hand. I'm going to go second this hand.
The only other game I could think of that you'd really choose to go second sometimes was Versus. Me and Rob's old.
But see, the thing about that is that wasn't so much that I want to go second. I want turn 4.
I want turn 4. Yeah, exactly. You want priority on turn 4 because you both built at the same time. You built your resource row. You actually laid your characters down. You would go characters formation because your formation of your field actually mattered.
You would do it before build 2.
You do it before build 2? Okay. Okay. Yeah. But yeah,
I heard this game is incredibly difficult, so I don't know.
Oh no, it's awesome.
It has a high learning curve.
Yes, it does have a high learning curve. Yes.
And we're talking about Legends of the Forward, right? Or whatever it's called.
No. I mean, that one was a pain too. I think it's easier now, but I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
Versus system, they rebooted it as like the 2-player card game, but
yeah. The original game was all about comic books and awesome stuff. So
what are you talking about? All card games are 2-player card games.
Yeah. Well, what happened was they tried to relaunch as like an LCG,
and it didn't work.
I think it was Fantasy Flight's like, we have a trademark on that, so here's a cease and desist. Yeah. And they're like, well, we need a different acronym to tackle on.
Yeah. But yeah,
what I really want to know is whether they have like multiplayer rules. I'm playing this 2-player. 4 players.
I love multiplayer card games. Just saying. We turned Vice Shorts into a multiplayer one. It's a ton of fun.
Oh, cool. So. Awesome. So, is there anything else we'd like to... I know this episode wasn't going to be a really long one because we didn't have a lot of news to really talk about, but is there... I guess... Do you want them, in your guys' personal opinion, do you want to see the Mulligan rule change to the Turbo Mulligan rule? If they choose to do that, not just forget about what the Discord's talking about, but what Jasco's presented to some of the people in the community?
I mean, just for the Mulligan, I would say yes, because, like, it's not going to make anything worse. You know, like, I would just say... the thing is right now the second player is, like, really, really in a bad spot, and... I think that's sort of changed. Like, there's times where the going second is somewhat negligible. Like, it can still be bad, but, like, it wasn't such a hole. Mm-hmm. And there have been times where it's probably been worse. So, it kind of comes and goes, but I just think, like, the Mulligan is something, like, I don't think anyone's going to be like, I'm going to go second because I get that Turbo Mulligan.
Sure.
But
it doesn't make the...
When they go second, they'll be like, well, I feel like I can, like, put together a pretty good hand.
Yeah, so. Sure. Okay. Fair?
Yeah. I think for the Mulligan rule, too, I think actually it just tinkering with the Mulligan rule actually fixes a few problems. It means that, like, the buff of, like, if they change it going second, you don't have to, like, remove your entire hand from the game, essentially, but you get to fix this kind of thing.
Sure.
It not only buffs going second by a little bit, not enough for it to maybe really matter, but it makes it feel better. And at the same time, it actually also, like, nerfs the annoyingness of like infinite combos with tech spheres and stuff like that. Because if you remove the game rules that say you have to remove these cards from your hand, and you make them put them back on the bottom of their deck, you actually get to also balance that because they can't get that, oh, I saw every combo piece that I need to remove the game to do this infinite damage combo. Yeah. Oh, here you go. Yeah. And so, like, that's a very small one. It's not actually a big deal. And
I actually always thought that why aren't we just shuffling the cards we removed at the beginning of the game back in, because it really doesn't matter. And I
think, honestly, because that's how it was.
I know. I understand that. And there's a cycle and all that stuff. But it just seems like the beginning of the game, we should have always just, well, I don't want these cards. Well, I'll put these at the bottom, rip a new hand, and then shuffle, and then, whatever.
Do what any other game.
Every other game does? Yeah. I think that would be. I think that'd be one change. The Turbo Mulligan rule should probably be tested at least, but maybe not at a national level. They should definitely in-house test it and then maybe try it out at I don't know if you want to say at a PTC, or maybe set it for Premier Store events, have them do it. That'd be, there's enough Premier Stores now to where they have enough events to where they can get like a really good solid block of month of testing on that. Yeah.
I actually think even with like you're talking about, because like at least at PTCs with this Mulligan rule, like that you can't imagine that there are going to be people there that are like, man, this new Mulligan rule is the reason why I lost.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're like, and I was like really, that's the reason you lost. So like, like I actually think with the number of PTCs that we have this year, I think it's actually a really good time to try it out if they want to do it. But again, like they got to make that decision pretty quick if they want that to happen. Yeah, and it would be kind of really scummy because like not as many people get to try it out yet. Yeah. But I think if you did it at the same time that a set came out that nobody has cards to for a PTC, maybe it's just a really fun PTC.
Yeah. No, I can see that. Yeah.
So other than that, like I think if they did this mulligan rule, it would fix some things in the future of balancing. But at the same time, like I think what would actually kind of be better is if instead of changing the rules so much, they actually just made cards that had really cool effects that even like said, if you went second this game, when you attempt to play this as a form, something happens. Like
I could see that. Yeah.
You could make this choice of like, I have cards in my deck that I want to go second. Like I'm playing the character Turbo Man, and I want to go second because I want to slam this Lonely on the board and do this cool thing. Like if there were actually more cards like that, people might try and structure decks around them, and it would just change deck diversity in wanting to go second and first. But the problem is that those decks don't even exist because you just want to steal first away from your opponent because that's how powerful it is. And that's the bad part. At least in Yu-Gi-Oh! And that's the only game I can compare it to because that game is the other extreme in the mulligan rules where it doesn't exist. You have your 5 cards and that's what you have.
Oh, wow.
But in that game's lifespan, going first and going second have swapped on which one is the more powerful role because of what has existed in the card game. And I think I'd rather see that because worst case scenario, it goes wrong and they just tweak, errata, ban, whatever. And like that's a much easier fix than constantly changing the game rules.
Sure.
I think that's just the better solution, I think.
No, I can see that. Yeah. I pretty much echo what you guys said. I would like to see the change, but it needs to come. If they're not going to do it for now, they might have to wait until this season's over.
Yeah, to do it. Which I think would be a little more rough because I think it would just kind of build and build and build because people were already talking about it last year.
Yeah, I think this is something that I think ever since the design changed for the most part, people have been saying something needs to change because going second is such. I guess so. It's so bad that to the point where, especially in the Bebop meta, the Bebop only meta, because things were just so fast.
I think it definitely correlates by how fast the game's going. Correct. Because if the game is over by turn 3 and going first is how you win, then going second you don't have 3 turns, you have 2, and you're like, well, I didn't.
And you really have 1 because the first turn was just I need to place foundation so I can play the rest of the game.
Now,
so I totally agree, and I think we're moving towards an era where if they keep dealing with these characters that are becoming the problem of what's happening turn 2, so like Liu Kang and they're fixing him obviously. But at the same time, like you have to check the other side. Like Quan Chi got banned not because of he could be inherently aggressive, but because he could do everything essentially. And if we have more characters that want to play the long con, like I think characters like Guile are a really good example of this. Like Guile, you can do you can be aggressive and work your way around that, or you can I'm going to go to deadlock every single game, and I'm going to make you do it too. If we see more characters like that, I think the pace will kind of slow down. We already have cards like Princess Perry and Fade, which, in my opinion, inherit a longer game style. But
you're correct.
But like at the same time, like under the evil symbol,
you got Akuma.
The characters you're also playing those cards under, and characters like Vega also become more aggressive when that happens. So like. You have this really weird duality that, like, this symbol with some of the best control pieces in the game recently wants to also be aggressive, and so it's just really weird.
To kind of touch on your point, like my current Akuma deck is very aggressive, but he still has those turns where I rip 1 attack. That may be because I don't have a lot of draw in the deck, and maybe just because I'm only playing 19 attacks and not 23. But so
gotta up those numbers.
Gotta up those rookie numbers, kids.
Man, I'm all in. I don't play more than 20.
I'm set on my 19 and I'm happy with it. But yeah, like I could see that. I'd be like, wow, like I want to try Akuma as a control type character to where you just stunt their growth with like all the check hacking and the fading and the revoking.
But the thing is like you can put in some of that stuff, but like
but you'll never kill anybody.
For Akuma is like his attack lineup isn't going to change.
Yeah, exactly.
And your offense is basically his attacks plus like whatever it's called, admission fees.
Yeah.
So, you know, like, it's just kind of...
You're still running the same deck, it's just you're just playing different pieces.
Go in, and it's just, like, how you play it.
Yeah.
And, like, the only problem you're having with that deck, Chris, is the only reason why that happens to you is because you're a 6-hander.
Oh, yes,
like,
for sure. And that's exactly
the only reason. And if Akuma was a 7-hander, he'd be banned. Like, banned.
Oh, yeah, dude, for sure. Yeah.
And, like, and that's where I think it, too, is, like, if they keep printing these 7-handers that aren't even, let's say, like, the nuts going first, but they're not printing, like, defensive 7-handers. Like, 'cause, like, the most defensive 7-hander we have in the game is, like, Sniper Joe, but then you could just play him aggressive, and Spike 1. And Spike 1 was a time where, like, the game slowed down, but Deadlock was still very powerful. And the other Cowboy Bebop characters could still be really quick. And so, like, that's why the game sped up. But if we don't have more defensive 7-handers, honestly, the game's going to keep getting faster because 6-handers are stuck in this limbo where it's like, unless their effects are completely game-changing, they don't ever quicken the game or slow it down. They kind of just keep it where it is.
Okay, yeah.
It's not that hard to count to like 27 or 28.
No, not with the attacks we have now. No, not at all.
Yeah.
So
exactly. And like that's how I feel because like 6-handers have never really changed the pace of the game, but you figure out which 6-handers fit the pace of the game the best.
True.
And so like that's why characters like Jet work because stun is so good right now compared to right before Bebop, where stun actually felt very not as good. Because people could play a longer game and then stun didn't matter anymore. And so then one perk of your attacks didn't do anything. We touched on that earlier.
Yeah, also with Jet, like he was able to put stun 4 on a lot of his attacks, and most of the attacks only had like stun 1 or 2. So, but that's different. That's a design thing. So.
I agree. Like, I mean, I play Order. I think stun is right now always good. But I
agree.
For last Nationals format, before Bebop even came out, I definitely felt like the best stun character was Mega Man 2. And so I played Mega Man 2 because I thought it was the best thing you could do. But, like, it's the reason why Deep Freeze and Frosthammer are playable. But at the same time, like, if you're not a 7-hander trying to play those cards feel really not good. So,
unless you're Kotal Khan. I'm going to say unless you're Kotal Khan or Sub-Zero.
That's because you can give it throw.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm going to say with just those two characters. Which is also...
I built Mega Man 2 with the Deep Freeze Frosthammer combo.
Yeah, that's got to be pretty fun. Yeah,
it was very fun. It actually made me consider, like, oh man, Mega Man Under Void is playable. But whatever.
Which kind of a funny lead-in, because I have a Seal Stun package, attack package video coming out next week, where I go over the skeleton of that type of deck for newer players, so I'm kind of plugging...
You got a friend in that deck?
What?
You got a friend in that deck?
Yeah, of course. Why not? The card's awesome.
I mean, it's not in that deck. I mean, not in any other deck but that one.
It's exactly, yeah. But yeah, so I'm just kind of plugging another future show that's coming out. So it's some more content for you guys, some teasers. So, but yeah. So we kind of are okay. We are okay with the Mulligan rule changing. We want to see them test it some more. I would, like we said, if they don't get it out before 2 weeks from...
I mean, here's the thing. I mean, you could say, like, test it.
Yeah.
Jackie's fine, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Testing done.
Yeah, there you go. I guess so. Yeah.
I mean, it's essentially finding the extremes with the new rule and saying, are these extremes, like, meta-defining? Like,
true.
It doesn't mean that you have to play one of these characters because going second matters for this character. Which then means that if you play against that deck, you should probably go second instead of first against them, but then you create this whole, like, well, that doesn't seem like that'd be ever exist, kind of, like, right now. Like, that doesn't ever seem like it'd be good enough, but it might, if the extreme is that good.
Okay.
So we don't know.
All right, then. So we're going to pretty much bring the episode to a close, unless Rob has anything else to say.
Nope.
Okay, we're good. All right, I want to thank Jasco Games and our Patreon sponsors for sponsoring Rockford CCG. We want to say thanks to Barrett for joining us permanently forever.
Yes. Can't wait for the next one.
Yes.
They're gonna get sick of me real quick.
Oh no. If I got sick of anybody, Rob would have been gone a long time ago. So, but I need someone who's smarter than me on the show. So, but now I got you. So
Whoa.
No,
that's okay.
My time is limited.
I'm the young blood. I'm not gonna get any of these old references.
But yeah, like, comment, subscribe. Again, the contest is still up to win the Prepare to Fight. The admission fees, I believe Rob found a bunch of cards. Do you want to go over any of them right now while we're talking about it? Do you have them near you?
I'm not sure. Hold on, let me see if I have the list.
Okay. So, and we have a bunch of foil characters. Again, you have to comment on episode 3 of the year in review about your favorite UFS moment of 2018. If you haven't watched it, please watch it, but take my word for it, just do it. We only have like 6 people comment on it. We want a bunch of comments on it.
That's not true. There's a ton.
Is there really? I've only seen like about 6 on there.
Trust me, episode 3 is the one that I'm on. So,
I got the list.
All right, cool, dude.
So, from Street Fighter, it's Stretch Kick, Despise All Evil, Cool and Focused, and Spinning Pile Driver. From Blood Omen, it's Stunner. I don't remember the rest.
Tombstone Stunner.
Tombstone Stunner.
Yeah, there you go. Immortal Knowledge, No Surprises, Formidable Task. From Battle for Power, Chivalry and Honor, Clear Cutter, Somersault Kick, and Yamato Saramu. And from Rise of the Masters, Dust in the Wind, Improved Design, Aphitophobia, and Surveyor.
Man, people will kill for those Rise of the Masters cards, you know. I guess you can get them in Platinum, but no one buys them.
If you have Platinum, you probably have them.
Yeah, you probably do.
You can always use more.
Always use more.
Or give them to someone in your play that's new.
Player.
Yep.
Also, we have the Chicago PTC coming up in 2-3 weeks from the recording. Today's the 20th, so yeah, about 3 weeks. Hope to see you guys there, everyone watching. I'm going to have a stream. I hope the store has Wi-Fi, but they don't remember the password, so they got a couple weeks to remember the password. So that could be a little rough. If not, I'll be recording games and then loading them up with no editing. I'll just toss them up onto my channel that night, so everyone can see all the fun misplays and make fun of people.
That sounds a lot better than having a live stream.
Yeah, I know, right?
What are we talking about? We do a live stream
the whole time. Yeah, but
we do a live stream. We can cast over it.
Pre-recorded.
Yeah, that'd be cool to get a simulcast with some some commentary over it. That'd be great. So I guess we'll wrap up the episode. Say thanks. Have a good night. Take care of each other, and we'll see you next time on the Guile Treatment. Have a night. Good night, everyone.